So, last night, I put on the movie WarGames for the very first time. Now, this is one that my brother, my father had seen, but I had just never seen this movie. I'm a big 80s person. If you've seen a majority of my favorite movies, they're in the 80s. But for whatever reason, I had just never seen this movie until last night, so I wanted to talk about it a little bit here. Down below in the comment section, you guys, share what you thought of WarGames over on my channel. I have more content like this. Check those out once this video is over. And this is probably just going to be one of those one-take videos. Frequently on my channel, I've been doing these, like, every time I first time watch something that I think is worth talking about on this channel, I usually will put up a review for it. But here we are talking about WarGames, which I watched for the first time last night. And for me, this was just a fun piece of the 80s that I ended up missing, unfortunately. So, if you see my favorite, like I said previously mentioned, a majority of my favorite movies of all time came out in the 90s, 80s, and 70s. And I don't know, something about movies from the 90s, 80s, and 70s have a certain nostalgic charm to them. And this movie has nostalgic charm as somebody who really enjoys the 80s. I didn't grow up in the 80s or anything like that, but there's a certain charm to any of these 80s movies. And with the tone, with the plot that it has, with the technology used in the film.
Shall we play a game?
Even with the certain way the story plays out and the pacing, all of these 80s movies just have sort of a charm to them. And this movie just kind of feels like another one of those. Like another piece of the 80s that I ended up missing. And it also just feels kind of ahead of its time. It's a premise about like an AI making people think that World War III is happening and that people are actually attacking each other in the context of the Cold War, which might, I don't know how ridiculous that sounded back then, but in a world where we do have like World War III in talks and stuff like that, and AI is being used by everybody, it kind of feels like a movie that could also be made today. We'll get into more of that later. And throughout the film, it's just a charming little adventure with some charming characters all throughout it. A fun, kind of ridiculous, but a fun story to follow. And yeah, it just had, like, a lot of that goes down to the fact that it is an 80s film. A lot of that goes to the fact that it is like a sci-fi thriller spy movie in some sorts. And the teenage characters' dynamics are all there. And yeah, I don't think too much of this movie. I just watched it last night. I didn't think too much of it afterwards. But with the stuff I do remember, I did think that this was a fun movie. Now, I'm not totally bananas for it like everybody. I don't consider it one of the best 80s movies. It's not in my favorite movies of all time. I don't think that it's particularly great. And I think some of that goes down to, I think it should have been a little bit shorter. And the movie is less than 2 hours long. I felt like they could have cut some stuff out. Like, there's a plot line in it about a scientist on a reclusive island that just didn't care too much for. And yeah, that's pretty much my big issue with the film that just knocks it back, is I think some of the plot lines, especially about the scientist, I just didn't really care too much for. Also, another interesting fact about this one, I think that this is a movie that could be remade today. I don't know how hot of a take that is. I don't know if I just stepped on all your guys' toes, but I just watched it for the first time last night, and I went, yeah, that's a movie that I think is transferable today, and where we have modern technology, a modern sci-fi concept with AI and all that stuff. I think it actually could be made today and done right, and maybe even better. I think there's some things to be improved upon. But overall, just a fun piece of the 80s that I ended up missing. So overall, I'll give this one a B. That's just my take, though. Down below in the comments section, share what you thought of WarGames over on my channel. I have more content like this. Check those out once this video is over, which is right now. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end, and I will see you in the next one.